Hello, this is Frank Donaldson with the Institute of School and Parish Development here in the greater New Orleans area, and we are thrilled to be able to present our webinar, 10 Key Ingredients for Your Successful Catholic School Development Advancement Gumbo. Being a New Orleans-based company, we thought that we would offer this presentation using the motif of some very famous Southern cooks and show you metaphorically how we can make sure we have successful advancement development efforts, and at the same time, tongue-in-cheek, talk a little bit how to create a chicken andouille and shrimp gumbo. We've had a wonderful time putting this together. And it all is geared to being able to help Catholic schools in their development advancement arena. We find after 26 years of working as consultants and coaches in this field of Catholic school and parish development, that oftentimes it is so important to be able to understand what the key ingredients are, what the most important things are in terms of making sure you've got a good structure and good processes in place in order to proceed. And that's what this is all about. As I said, we thought we would use our southern location and use a little tongue-in-cheek to be able to share with you what we believe something that you need to be serving up to all of your various constituents. We're going to take a look at this from a number of areas. We are going to take a look at different ingredients. We're going to look at organizational framework, what we call the common denominator, the one thing you must have in your gumbo of processes, tongue-in-cheek, Holy Trinity, look at some main ingredients, look at the importance of seasonings, and who stirs all of this. And then finally, we'll serve it up. As we've said, we've been at this for a good number of years. And one of the things that we continue to enjoy doing is offering free webinars and presentations like this. Just in the last 3 months, we have had well over 1,500 Catholic leaders from across the country that have attended our webinars or else have gone to the YouTube link and viewed them that way. This is exciting for us because as an institute, we feel that our number one priority always is being able to teach. And everyone here at this company, while being in the field consultants, all of us have backgrounds as Catholic school administrators and teachers, coaches, and the like. So in terms of the work that we do, a lot of work with strategic planning, capital campaigns, annual funds, but above all, as you'll see in this presentation, a lot of our work is helping Catholic schools set up and get organized in terms of their advancement efforts and spending a lot of time helping assess what's working and what is not working. Contact information will be here on this slide. Best way to get in touch with me is my email address, fedonaldson@ispd.com, in case you have questions, clarifications. But let's go ahead and begin, because the number one ingredient is the gumbo pot. You can't cook a gumbo unless you got a pot. And the pot is so important because that is really the structure. That is the framework. That is the organization. That is what you need to put all the ingredients in. And this pot has to hold everything and hold it successfully and be added correctly. And so in terms of the gumbo pot, we talk about structure and organization, but we also talk about what philosophy are we going to use that are going to be used to advance these efforts. And so for many years, as many of you know, we have used a key definition that developing and advancing our Catholic schools is really about meaningfully inviting and involving people into our mission and vision. And so important because that particular philosophy, so like dropping a pebble in a pond where the first ripple of those 50, 60 people that are with you, my wife Susie and I raise our hands for working in our parish and working in our Catholic school that our daughter attends. And we are called in our company First Ripple people. I'm sure those of you viewing this particular presentation are the same way. But you know, there's a second and third and fourth ripple of people out there we don't even know. Our own parents, our grandparents, our past parents, our parishioners, many people that we may know a name, but we really don't know. We've never engaged them. We've never personally invited them to belong. You know, belonging does lead to believing, as we've said many times. And so if we define that we need a framework and we need an organizational structure, we need also a philosophy. And we hope that you adapt and adopt the philosophy of your advancement development efforts as engaging people. Belonging does lead to believing. Whether you're involved in enrollment management, whether you're involved in asking for money, whether you're inviting someone to be part of a strategic planning effort, belonging leads to believing. And so we need to concentrate on those personal invitations. As many of you know, we use the 7I approach for all this. Identifying people, informing them in many, many ways, personally inviting them, getting them involved in various ways, having them help implement the annual fund, implement this fundraising event, implement this alumni gathering, implement this alumni reunion, implement the strategic plan, implement. And so that becomes so important because that leads to that sense of belonging, that sense of being a steward. And that's that sixth I of investing their time, their talents, their treasure, but most importantly, their best wisdom, their prayer, their connections. So this is all built around these 7Is. And how do we constantly improve what we do, which is obviously one of the main reasons you're looking and viewing this today. How do we improve those efforts? So the first ingredient for us is, as you see in this diagram, this is our structure, and we'll fill in those boxes over the next 20, 30 minutes. So the recipe for success is that Catholic school leaders said we need advancement development in our Catholic school. And so therefore, this is the pot. This is the structure that we recommend, that we see in terms of best practices successful throughout Catholic schools throughout the country. And let's begin by sharing some of these ingredients. We've got the pot and we're ready to begin. The second ingredient, so important, and that is the root. And that stands for constituent records, your database. Now, the root of the gumbo is the most essential ingredient. It is the base from which everything else develops. It is, as we said, your database. We often say that your development advancement efforts, enrollment management efforts, are only going to be as good as your database, only going to be as good as your constituent records. So kind of tongue-in-cheek, we say the light roux, for those of you that don't want to stir it too much, could be an Excel spreadsheet. The medium roux might be something like ACT or FileMaker Pro. The dark roux, that could be Razor's Edge, eTapestry, one of those blackboard software applications, or maybe Donor Perfect or some other high-end software package that allows you to get excellent reports and allows you to do things like donor analytics. At the base of the gumbo, and especially at the base of your Catholic school development efforts, is donor analytics. Is donor records, constituent records. Your database allows you to do things like that, donor analytics. But once again, you got to have the database of people, of your parents, of your past parents, of your grandparents, obviously of your students, of your donors, of your businesses, grandparents, prospective families. All this must be in that database. So the roux equals constituent records. Very important ingredient. Ingredient 3 is really 3 things. So 3, 4, and 5 we'll look at in a second. Constituent records we filled in the first box. The Holy Trinity, as we call it, tongue-in-cheek. Here in New Orleans, we whimsically talk about the Holy Trinity that's added to the roux of the gumbo. Now, the Holy Trinity are onions, bell peppers, and celery. And we'll start with onions. The onions stand for the written strategic plan for development and advancement. And this plan is built around these 6 areas. We've already seen one of those boxes filled in, constituent records. We want to make sure that as we look at development and advancement, we view it as a system, and within that system are a number of processes that make it all work. And so in order to make sure our development and advancement efforts are just not one fundraiser after another, we want to make sure we don't fall into the trap of that kind of trap. We need a written plan with strategic initiatives, with benchmarks, with outcomes, with people in charge. And once again, that strategic plan, what we find works best with this kind of outline, where there's the mission and purpose of the school's development advancement efforts. There's the case for support, why people should support your Catholic school. Then the 6 major areas of which we'll unveil through this presentation. And under each of those areas, maybe there's 1, 2, or 3 challenges. And then with those challenges, there are 2, 3, or 4 strategic initiatives that help solve that challenge using the SMART formula of strategic, measurable, achievable, relevant, and driven by a timetable. And then obviously the plan has its priorities and a way to be implemented. The written strategic plan for development. Many Catholic schools do not have this. They've got some ideas, but we really feel this is important. And so the first in the Holy Trinity is the onions, which stands for that written strategic plan. In the chart, you'll see where that is. So that written plan is right across in the middle, and we're going to begin to fill up those boxes as we move along. We're going to go to the next ingredient, still part of the Holy Trinity, and that is what we call the bell pepper, which stands for, in this case, communication. This is where you develop your messaging. This is where you have your case statement and your mission and your vision. This is where you develop your wow, the language, the verbal and visual elements that make up what you are about. So you've established the organizational structure. You have placed importance on the database. You understand the value of this written strategic plan. Now you need to make sure the messaging is clear. And all the messengers speak the same message. So many of the components of communication, whether you're an elementary school or a secondary school or pre-K through 12 or a regional middle school, these components are important. Communication area of advancement development handles the brand, the articulation and integration of the brand, handles publications like newsletters and brochures and promotional materials, hard copy and electronic, your website and your what you visually display, your email communication, your social media, your Facebook page, Twitter, YouTube, other vehicles that you use to reach your constituents, the design elements of your communication efforts, your graphic designing and all that, whether you outsource that or do that in-house. And obviously the use of media relations. Make sure your school is in the newspaper and in various media sources. And then the photography, especially with technology today, the photography piece becomes so important. So that communication piece, as you look at the chart, becomes that second box. Very important box, as you can tell. The next in the Holy Trinity is going to be what we call, we've added the onions, we've added the bell peppers, now the celery. The key ingredients here is enrollment management. Celery is going to stand for enrollment management, managing your enrollment. Now, we've often said that enrollment management is everyone's job. You'll notice, and there are a number of schools that will disagree, but please hear me out. We have enrollment management as part of the overall development advancement structure. And it's not set off by itself and called admissions. With this ingredients, schools manage their entire enrollment process, from attracting families to admitting students, to retaining the students, to when they become graduates. And enrollment management depends upon so many other areas. Everything is related. How could you have enrollment management without constituent records? How could you have enrollment management without communication? These are just prime examples of how this needs to be part of this overall advancement development structure. And some of those components, whether you're elementary school or high school, You've got to have promotional materials, hence the need to have it in close sync with communication. Ongoing, daily almost, records of people who say, I'm interested in your school, hence the relationship with constituent records. School visits and shadow days and open houses and student retention, outreach to feeder and partner sources, parent neighborhood gatherings, on-campus activities for prospective families, community-wide exposure so people out in the far community understand what's going on, ambassador teams. Once again, having an ambassador team out on the shopping mall talking about your school at a booth can be exciting. So we look at that enrollment management area, and you can see in the chart where it is. It is right there. And enrollment management is all part of that effort of advancing the school. The next, we've kind of looked at this pot, we've looked at the roux, we've looked at the Holy Trinity. Now we're going to start adding some ingredients. We've made the roux in the pot with the flour and the oil. We have either have a light or a medium or a dark roux. We've added our onions, bell peppers, and celery. I like to add them all at once, mix them all up where they're kind of like a gooey. And then I like to add my chicken stock. And it could be something where I've boiled the chicken bones, come up with a good stock, even add chicken broth, but above all, that's my liquid. And now I want to start adding some key ingredients. The first, seafood and meat to the gumbo. The first is going to be shrimp. One of the most delicious areas of all, especially when it's Gulf Coast shrimp right here in this area. So the shrimp ingredient, so important. Fund development. This is a huge area. And by fund development, we mean the annual fund, the capital campaigns, the major gift portfolios, the endowments, the planned giving, memorial giving, even grant writing. Out of all these, the major one that most Catholics work with, though, is the annual fund. And this is the area that needs the most attention, because the annual fund, those donors become capital campaign donors, become planned giving donors, become endowment donors. And so this shrimp ingredient, meaning the fund development, this is a series of well-organized processes. And the annual fund stands out as needing the most attention and care. Now with the annual fund, because it's so important, we always say that using person-to-person visits, home and school receptions, phone outreach, and eventually direct mail, that becomes so important to reach out and engage. They're key components that we like at an annual fund. Clear case for support of where the money's going. The invitation to invite 3 gifts, the gift of prayer, the gift of service, and the gift of financial participation. We like 2 annual fund chair couples. We like divisions. You'll see 7 divisions, and we say 6, but the parishioner gift division may or may not be applicable. But we like the major gift division. These are people that would be invited to consider a gift of $1,000 or more. The leadership gift division, faculty, staff, boards, and council members who are not in the major gift division. Parent gift division, alumni gift division, possibly parishioner, but definitely business community and friend, which is past parents and grandparents. You may not have all this in place yet. What we're encouraging you to do is to take a look at this. And we've worked with many schools that it's taken as many as several years to put all this in place, but makes a huge difference when it is. So the fund development piece becomes a real key piece in our chart, in our framework. This is our pot. This is our pot. Then we move to the next meat seafood ingredient, and that's going to be the andouille. And this will be the 7th ingredient, and that's going to stand for alumni or alumnae involvement, which is, in many cases, an underdeveloped area in Catholic schools. So important. And so the ability to bring back and involve your graduates, whether you're elementary school or high school, there's going to be different processes for different types of schools. This is an area that needs a lot of attention. And this is an area that interfaces with so many other areas we've mentioned. your philosophy and structure and how you reach out to your alums. Do you just send them raffle tickets and ask for money in the annual fund? It interacts with your database, your constituent records area, the communications effort, the fund development areas, especially the annual fund, and involving your alumni enrollment management. Maybe there's an alumni ambassador team that helps you for open house. Alumni involvement. And we like to see, with both elementary schools and high schools, while there are different approaches, different levels of alumni activity, there are key areas we recommend. Obviously, the constituent records, spending time on that. Alumni organizational group of some kind, whether it's a formal board or a committee or an organizational whatever. The communication with your newsletters, your social media, Facebook page, website presence, email blast, annual report, alumni invitations to various things. Class and or decade reps, homecomings, reunions, on-campus events, picnics, volleyball tournaments, etc. For high schools especially, out-of-town gatherings with reps in different cities. And then for those who have advanced into major giving, those alumni portfolios. In key area here, as we continue to fill up our box, our structure, the next box, alumni. Then we move to the last box in our 6 areas, and this is another meat. This is the chicken. This is one of the many staples of gumbo. In fact, here in South Louisiana, a lot of families like to cut up and use a couple of hens, because in a gumbo, you can cook it for a while, and the hen, which is usually tough if you just bake it, many times falls apart, becomes very tender. But this is our 8th ingredient. And this is an area that Catholic schools have been doing since the dawn of time. Fundraising events. But unlike fund development, fundraising events is a buy and sell way of thinking. The Catholic school is looking to sell something. Raffle tickets, raffle calendar, bags of mulch, chance to win a prize, ticket to sponsor the 18th hole of the golf tournament, a car wash, ticket to the gala. So we are very skilled in this arena. The key is we don't nickel and dime people to death. We know there's a gap between tuition and fundraising, but we have to be prudent. We have to be really organized and make sure our fundraising events do 3 things. Raise good net dollars, build community, and identify, promote, and inspire leadership, because we don't want to nickel and dime. And so what we recommend is that in many of the Catholic high schools and elementary schools across the country, there's a flow of activities where there's an emphasis in fund development. But then on the fundraising event side, there are 3 of them. Maybe there's a golf tournament. Maybe there's a gala. Maybe there's a fair. Maybe there's a mulch sale. Maybe there's a whatever, raffle calendar sale. But only 3. And then careful selection of other fund development processes, like your major gift work, your planned giving, your endowment growth, your tuition assistance. And then, as the University of Notre Dame said years ago, when I took a workshop with them back in the late 1980s, they said you ought to do a capital campaign every 10 years. It energizes and excites your constituents. So now our boxes are filled. These are the 6 areas of Catholic school advancement and development: constituent records, communications, enrollment management, fund development, alumni involvement, and fundraising events. All with a written plan of action. But you notice there's still 3 boxes we haven't covered. And with that, let's move to ingredient 9. This is the seasoning. Emeril Lagasse, which I'm sure you've seen on the Food Channel, sometimes he yells, "Bam! Kick it up a notch." Well, that's the seasoning. Seasoning to us is the people. Now, whether or not you want your gumbo medium, hot with seasoning, or whether or not you need to provide napkins to blow noses or wipe away tears, guarantee you this is your choice. On our table, there's always an extra roll of paper towels, because we like our gumbo well seasoned. And very much like seasonings,
how many people you add and invite and engage is going to be key to your efforts. This is the spice, the people of the spice. This is what will distinguish your efforts and make them fill with energy and creativity and excitement. So we always say, let's not cook a bland gumbo. Let's kick it up several notches and invite people to belong so they'll believe in your mission. If development is the meaningful involvement of people in your mission and vision for the future, then people fuel is the answer. We always challenge every Catholic school to engage some kind of way, 100 new people every year, not just parents, not just alums, but past parents and grandparents and community and friends. They're there. This is a people business. Some administrators, pastors, presidents, principals, even school board members or board of trustees members. Sometimes we run across a kind of reluctant because they're afraid the inmates are going to run the asylum, I guess. But if you invite people and engage people and always are upfront with them and tell them, listen, we're inviting you to come in and share your best wisdom. We're inviting you to come in and share with us your thoughts for direction. We are going to take your ideas like we will take other people's ideas, and we will certainly present this as recommendations to the leaders of our Catholic school to consider in terms of what they will implement and what they will prioritize. Notice that I never said in that last sentence that there were any mandates. We will take your ideas and thoughts as recommendations to present to the leaders of our school for them to consider in terms of prioritization and implementation. That's the language that we find to be so effective because people understand it. So the seasoning and the way we engage people, through the years, we've developed well over 50 ways. Here are a few of them. Core team members that we'll talk about in a minute, input listening sessions and surveys. We've talked about written newsletters about the pastor, president, principal cabinet, strategic planning involvement, cup of coffee meeting with the pastor, the president, the principal, and or the development officer, working in the annual fund of the capital campaign, serving on an ambassador team, alumni class rep, parent class rep, so many ways to invite and involve and engage people in meaningful ways. People fuel, that's the seasoning. And you'll see where it is on the chart, right here, very key. Now we move to the last ingredient, the 10th ingredient. And basically the 10th ingredient is we've got all these ingredients, we have all these components in our pot, we've got to have somebody that's going to stir it up. Not negatively, just stir everything together. And so the persons who make it happen are the ones who stir this pot. From the first time the oil and flour is put in to make the roux, to where you add the Holy Trinity and then add your chicken stock and your meat and your seasonings and your seafood. Somebody has to be stirring so nothing gets burnt and nothing gets starts to stick at the bottom of the pot. That's ingredient number 10. The stirrers of the gumbo. And we call that the development officer, officers, and the core team. Now we realize that many Catholic schools have many different configurations. Some have a multi-person advancement development office. Some has a one-person shop. Some have part-time. Some have volunteers. In some cases, the principal is the development officer. We understand that. But one person needs to be able to raise her or his hand and say, I am responsible for the development advancement efforts of this Catholic school. And that's the person we call the development officer. And the team that works with that person is the core team. And this is the group of 15 people that represent board and faculty and staff and parents and past parents and donors and alums. And they primarily work in 3 areas. They help you educate and communicate what's going on in advancement and development. They can help facilitate planning sessions, but 80% of what they do, they help you implement. They help you implement the annual fund. They help you implement the golf tournament. They help you implement the alumni gatherings. They help you implement strategic planning sessions. And they help you, strategic plans. They are so good. In the hundreds of core teams we have put together in over 26 years, so many times we have principals and pastors and development officers and presidents say, I can't believe we waited this long to put this group in place. So what we're recommending here is don't just stir your gumbo with your development officer or officers. Create that core team and see the value of engaging this representative group. So here it is. This is the recipe for success, where the Catholic school leaders have said we need a development operation. And there are development officer or officers in place, whether it's part-time, full-time, volunteer, working with a core team. There's a written plan. It's built around a philosophy of people fuel, and there's 6 areas: constituent records, communications, enrollment management, fund development, alumni involvement, and fundraising events. So now we need to serve it up. Maybe you put a little rice, a little filet gumbo seasoning. In the Deep South, you'll find some families will even put a spoonful of potato salad right in the middle of the gumbo bowl. There's your recipe for success. And there is a beautiful picture of a chicken and shrimp and andouille gumbo. As we look at this, we think it's important that you realize that there are ingredients. This is an organized, systemic way of looking at Catholic school advancement and development. There is a structure, and although we whimsically are using the gumbo motif, there is a structure. There is constituent records. There is communication. There is a written plan. There's enrollment management. They've got the fund development and alumni or alumnae and special event fundraisers and built around people fuel and built around development officers and core team. And realizing that all of this is now time to serve that up and make sure that people understand what you're doing. Lastly, many times in making these types of presentations, we get so many questions. We hope this particular presentation has been helpful in terms of helping you organize your efforts and taking a look at how it can be. We, as you can tell, are just kind of tongue-in-cheek, just sharing with you something we feel kind of makes life worthwhile down here in the South with our cooking motif. But regardless, it still is the same. There is a development office with officers and a core team and a philosophy of people fuel and 6 areas that are so important. In terms of that, there are a number of offerings that we as a company have recently created. We have a national advisory board of 16 people. We have a couple of Catholic school superintendents. We have a couple of presidents. We have 3 development advancement officers. We have a couple of principals, and we have several businesswomen and businessmen providing objectivity, and also a couple of priests. We meet twice a year, and recently we have been hammering out over the last couple of sessions some offerings that I think that many of you may find interesting. We have just started in October 2015 our executive coaching. This is now executive coaching to individual Catholic schools for principals and teams and presidents and pastors. And this is off-site online, made available through GoToMeeting, phone conferencing, emails, video conferencing. 2 types of plans. Both plans deal with number of hours, and will go up to 5 hours a month. I'm doing all the coaching right now with the ones that have signed on. And we can only take on so many at one time. But we start off with the discovery form, finding out what your needs are. And then we come to know you and what your challenges are. And then we visit with you every week and make sure that we are working with you in terms of these phone conferences and go-to meetings and the like. And you're exposed to our library of many, many resources, our PowerPoints, hundreds of them, on many, many areas of Catholic school development, advancement, and enrollment management. The videos, the planning processes, agendas, surveys, letters, scripts, training booklets, checklists, all that are customized for your situation. And this executive coaching is something that we're excited about. And if you are interested, just email me. You'll see my email come up a little bit later on, because if you'd like to talk about it, I'll be more than happy. It's mainly geared to those schools that quite possibly cannot afford on-site consulting, or maybe those schools that just need check-in on a monthly basis for someone to monitor and to guide them along and to coach them along. We're working with the ones we're working with now. It is really working well, very well. So if you are interested, my email address, fedonaldson@ispd.com, if you'd like to discuss this further. The other area that we talked about at the board that we'll be beginning in 2016 is what we call our Morgan River retreats. We live out here on 25 acres of land in South Louisiana. My family bought this property back in the 40s, and we have log homes, and it is just like a retreat you'd go to. Beautiful, right on the river, Morgan's River. And so we're going to be starting retreats for advancement, development, enrollment management, and total stewardship teams. This is at our home, and we're going to offer 5 retreats a year beginning in 2016. We'll invite 3 to 4 teams at a time. This is not for individuals, this is for teams. And the teams we'll invite will be Catholic school development teams, will be one group we'll invite, secondary advancement teams, enrollment management teams, parish total stewardship teams and development teams, and then on the diocesan level, diocesan teams working with their Catholic schools in enrollment management, marketing, development, advancement. We have looked at this as a board and have realized that the focus is on helping you come up with a plan. We have decided that the outcome is a written plan of action for you. You leave here, you've got a plan of action. And the methodology is, it's such a nice, serene, peaceful setting. Team meetings, peer sharing, get a chance to just network with so many people and have time to do that. And this is not a workshop where you just sit and listen. This is a workshop where you really can able to share and strategically plan. We looked at different types of retreats, and this is what our advisory board came up with. We'll offer a one-day retreat that'll be, you can do it on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday. It'll go from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Cost $25 per person, and that includes all the meals. My wife, Susie, is a wonderful Southern cook, and she will be doing all the cooking with a couple of her friends. With a 2-day retreat, we'll start on Sunday evening from 6 to 9 and then come back all day Monday. Then the 3-day retreat will start on Sunday evening, 6 to 9, and then go 9 to 7 on Monday and 9 to 7 on Tuesday. This is, once again, an opportunity for you to bring your team. Transportation to and from the airport, transportation from retreat to the hotel. There are hotels close by, Holiday Inns, Ramada Inns, Best Western, Radisson, that type. Homemade meals right here. We have several priests who will be alternating and offering Mass each day. You'll have a retreat binder, but above all, you'll have your plan of action. Refreshments throughout the day in a retreat setting. This is our home, and we will be doing some of the work inside the home, but a lot inside the ISPD office, which is also a log cabin, along with also being outside, sitting around the pool and talking. Once again, a wonderful opportunity for you to bring your team. If you're interested, once again, just email us and we'll be more than happy to share some more information with you. So we have a bonus question. Out of all the ingredients, what is the one ingredient that you simply must have or you could not make the gumbo? Of the 10 quote-unquote ingredients, what's the one that's the most important? Now, if you answer that question right, we're going to send you a family recipe book that I put together back in 1996 which is family recipes from my family and adjacent families. It's been revised, updated, and it is filled with 83 pages of Southern recipes. We've even put an asterisk by the names of the recipes that when I was growing up, we always had. But you got to answer this question. Out of all the ingredients, what is the one that you simply must have, or you could not make the gumbo? And in order to get a copy of this email to you, then the bonus question, you got to mail your answer to me, F.E. Donaldson at ISPD.com. We hope you do that. It's a wonderful book. Back years ago, I gave it out to family and friends, probably made about 100 copies of it. And I bet you over half the people that we gave it to are still using that in their Thanksgiving and their Christmas dinners and the like. And once again, we'd love to share it with you. The answer is pretty simple if you think about it. Hopefully, you'll email your answer. Once again, we've enjoyed presenting this to you. This is something that we really have enjoyed putting together. A little creativity, a little tongue-in-cheek, but hopefully it shows you the major ingredients for your development, advancement, success in your Catholic school. Let us hear from you. Thank you so much for being on board and try and answer that question. Thank you.